Today we're going to put the rocker arms and the push rods and preload the lifters. Since that process requires you to turn the engine over several times, what I am going to do is I'm going to run the oil pump with an oil pump priming tool. And I did not know this, but the machine shop tells me that if you don't have this on here, only half of your engine gets oiled, because this groove is what provides pressure to one of the banks. I forget which one he said. But at any rate, it's got a 3/8 inch end on it. However, when I tried to chuck it into my 3/8 inch drill, it didn't fit. Now, since I don't have an intake manifold on here, this is what goes in the distributor hole. I don't need this piece, so I'm going to take it off for now. And there's an oil pump shaft down there that we need to get engaged, and it feels like it is engaged right there. Now, because I couldn't chuck that into the drill, I came up with what I think is actually a better solution, and that is a 3/8 inch socket fits the end of that shaft exactly, and it was easier to insert this by itself and just put the socket on it than it would be to try to chuck the drill in. Whoa. Yep, that's pumping right out through the, there should have been a plug in there. That is the hole where the oil pressure sending unit is put in some cases. I say in some cases because this one has another hole on the side of the block, and that's going to be the next place it comes out if I plug this one. So that'll have to be cleaned off before I put I don't know whether that plug was in there. I don't think it was in there whenever I sent it to the machine shop. These will have to be cleaned with acetone before I put gaskets on it. Plug here. I don't know if it's the right thread. It's not really from that, but it does appear to be the right thread. I'm wondering, now that I look at it, that would appear to go into the intake manifold. I wonder if that's to oil the distributor shaft. I'm going to take a look at my old manifold I took off, because that's the only one I had down here. Well, the new one's up at the house. And see if that's the case. Maybe that's why there's no plug in it. Here's what I've found out so far. This is the oil sending unit oil pressure sending unit from the 76. Now, as you saw when I tried to prime the thing, oil was shooting out of here. That's where the pressure sending unit, which is a much smaller unit, is located on my 74. This one was located down here somewhere. So I found these two holes here, which it doesn't fit into, and I looked into them with a flashlight, and I hope you can see that. I better put some illumination on it. So I looked, these are the two holes. Let's see if you can, if they're in the video. Let's zoom in some. Okay, I can see the threads on the one. There's two holes here and here. I looked into those with a flashlight, and they both appear to be blind holes, no connection into the inside of the block. There's also a plug right here, and what I'm thinking right now, but before I do anything with it, I'm going to go up and check my video. That's not in focus. So right here is a plug. It's got a hex plug in it, but I think what might have happened is, since, depending on the year of the car, on a small block Chevy, the oil sending unit can be up at the top or down by the oil filter. I think maybe what happened is that the machine shop just went and plugged that, since they noticed that the block I gave them had neither one of them plugged. So I did look at the intake manifold I took off. There is no provision to oil the distributor shaft from here. So that hole is, I think, purely to, and you couldn't see that. I was pointing to the top hole. So there, depending on the year, you either got your oil sending unit here or down here. And I think the machine shop just assumed that it was going to use the top one, plugged the one by the oil filter. But I'm going to go look at the video where I took it apart, see if I can determine that that's actually where they had it plugged in, or that had the oil pressure sending unit screwed in, I should say. So with this plugged and the priming tool in place, and you can't really see the priming tool from here, it's right here. I started to turn it again to see if it would work, and because I haven't used my drill for quite a while, the drill battery was dead. So it's on the charger now. I don't have a spare for it. So while I'm waiting for that to get enough of a charge to turn the oil pump, I'm going to make a different video about pushrod length. I have rebuilt engines before, but it's been a long time, and some of the aftermarket stuff has changed. So in doing some research to get back up to speed in terms of rebuilding, came across push rod length checkers. Okay, so I assumed, and you know what that does, that this would have some kind of markings on it for the length, but no. So if you want to have this mimic a 7.3 inch push rod, you have to measure this and set it at 7.3 inches, lock it down, put it in, do your measuring, and then buy the appropriate push rods. So how do you measure that? They come in tenths of inches. So who has a ruler that measures in tenths of inches? Answer: I do, but only because I was in IT and in its early days, and this was actually to lay out printers. You had 132 characters per line. They were a tenth of an inch each. And I wish you could see that better, but let's see if I can turn the light on the camera. That might help. Not really. Okay, that's about as good as I can show you. But there's 10 tenths of inches measured between there. But most people don't have that. And so what's your next option? You go to your caliper, of course. Well, your caliper is fine, except most calipers are only 6 inches, and this is a 7.3 inch push rod I'm trying to duplicate with that. So what I did, and what you could probably do, okay, that's millimeters. I better change that. This is inches. 1.4, 1.62. I got this before when I was up at the house. Got it on exactly 3. It's hard to do, but you know, 1/10 of an inch is not something we usually measure. So just missed it. Got my finger in there to try to, there we go. We're at 3/10 of an inch. So in trying to get this, flip it over to, turn that light off now, it's giving me glare. 3/10 of an inch is 19/64. So to get an approximate length in fractions of inches, and I don't know how well you can measure 19/64 with a ruler anyways, so I'm going to round that 19 up to 20, which you can divide the top and bottom then by 2. So 20 divided by 2 is 10. 64 divided by 2 is 32. So 10 32nds. Now you can divide that by 2 again, and you come up with 5/16. So a 7.3 inch push rod is approximately 7 5/16. Then I did the same thing for 4/10 of an inch. Hard to move this so slightly. You're talking 5/10,000ths of an inch at this point. There we go. The light moved, the sun moved, now you can't see it. Four-tenths of an inch is 51/128ths, I'm sorry. So again, I round that 51 up to 52 and divide by 2, that's 26/64. Divide by 2 again is 13/32. So 14/32 would be 7/16. 12/32 would be 6/16, which is 3/8. So this is 4/10 of an inch is right between 7/16 and 3/8. So you can kind of get to a ballpark there. And just for grins, while I've got it here, let's see if I can get 5/16 in there. And then switch it. There's 5/16. Let's switch it to, oops, it moved. 5/16. That's millimeters. Okay, so the 5/16 was, which was 3/10 of an inch. It is actually 0.3105, so it's like 1/100th of an inch off. So that kind of proves the point. And what did we say? Halfway between 3/8 and 7/16. We said 13/16. So let me see if I can get 13/16 on here. I'm sorry, it was 13/32. Okay. If we take 13/32, it's 4.060. So if we take 3/8, which was one down from that, 3/8 is actually 3.775. So, and trying to get 7/16 now. There you go. 4.405. So if you have a ruler that you can measure one mark between 3/8 and 7/16, you'd be right on. But I find it odd that they measure push rods in tenths of inches, and you really don't have, most people don't have a 1/10 of an inch measuring tool. You'd have to have a caliper that's probably, the next step up is probably a foot. But I'm going to use my tool here. I've got to send it way out to get to 7.3 inches. These tools are, sold in, you know, ranges of length, depending on how much adjustment you have here. That's about a 1/10 short right now. Okay, that's about 7.3. And then you can lock it down by tightening that nut. That looks like about 7.3. Let me get it in there closer. I'm about to lose my battery. So if I can shine some light on that. You'll just have to take my word for it, because I cannot get a good shot of, maybe if I zoom way in. It looks to be right on 73. And some more. The other end is pretty much at 0. It looks like it's off from there, but it's the camera angle. After I change the battery, I'm going to show you one of the push rods I bought and one of the old ones I took out. There is one of the new ones. Zoom way in on the reading if I can. Come on, focus camera. It's right on 73. Right on 0 on that end. That's the new one. Gotta go get an old one. So this old one might be different, and the reason I say that is because the 7.3 was what was indicated by the I don't know whether it was comp cams or whether it was the AFR heads. But yeah, that's 73. No, it isn't. That is I'm going to call that 78. So 78 is 7.8 inches. So about a ½ inch longer than what was in there, or I'm sorry, shorter than what was in there. I'm wondering if I'm going to have to pick to some tracing because, you know, you get into you get into some of the manuals and the catalogs and that's where the machine shop got that 7.3 number. Some of those things are pretty darn small, and it could be easy to mistake 0.3 for 0.8. So I'm going to try to move on with this by priming the cylinder block. Hopefully I've got enough charge in my battery now. Another attempt at priming it. Still not enough juice in the battery, but I did get enough that I could see oil coming through some of the lifters. Guess I'm going to have to take a walk to the house and get my other drill. Put that one back on the charger. On my way up to the house, I had some time to think about that pushrod length. And what I decided is 7.3 is probably correct, because I put in roller lifters, a roller cam. The one I took out was flat tappet, and the hydraulic stuff inside the lifter is probably similar for both of those, but you need the extra ½ an inch or so on the bottom of the rollers in order for the roller to fit. Jeez, I think this battery's low too. I have 2 more. This one should have been charged and never used. You probably can't see it on the video, but I can see oil running out of the lifters. So, I am going to proceed with trying to measure to see if these 7.3 inch lifters or push rods are what I need. So I'll be working off of #1 cylinder and measuring there. So according to the instructions in the comp cams information, it says, and this is talking about setting the preload. Well, this also applies in the case of the length checker. So you want to turn the engine in the normal direction of rotation, starting with cylinder #1. When the exhaust valve begins to open, adjust the intake valve to the correct preload. So I am going to watch, I'm at top dead center right now, and I can watch the lifters. And you know what, let me move the camera so that the camera will show those lifters. So those last 2 lifters are cylinder #1, and you can tell the exhaust valve by where the ports are. So this is the intake manifold. That would be the intake valve, which means this one is the exhaust. So they're telling me to adjust until that exhaust valve begins to open, and then adjust the intake. So right now the intake is opening, intake is going down, they're both down. starting to open. So then it says to lubricate both ends of the push rod. In this case, it's going to be both ends of the push rod checker, length checker. And I'm doing this without lubricating it because that's not going to work that way. It's going to have to go in this way because that bolt and nut won't go through. So that's the intake. I'm going to get a little bit of the assembly lube on my finger and lubricate that bottom and top of the checker. And then it's time to actually put a rocker arm on. I'll back the camera off right now so that you can see when I do the rocker arm. Well, I don't know when that shut off, but I'm thinking that .8 might be closer to the truth. Oh man. I don't know if I got the right measuring tool. Only goes up to about 76, 7.6. Dang. I thought I was recording before. I don't know what I captured and what I didn't capture, but I basically put it on and it was way too short. I'm going to try again with as far as I can go on that measuring tool and see what happens. I'm going to measure this. I don't know how accurate this is going to be or how good this is going to be at this extended length because there's barely any thread hitting the end. That looks like about 76. .76, which is 7.6 inches. So we're going to back in here again. Oh, great. Now I can't get it in from that end either. Oh, managed to squeeze it in. It was close. Oops. In the process, I wiped my assembly lube off the end with my fat finger. So, a little bit of assembly lube. Double check the camera. Camera's recording. I must have forgot to turn it on before. So, okay. Forgot to do something here. What the machine shop told me to do was take a magic marker, color the end of the valve so that I can see where that roller is hitting on that valve after turning the engine over a couple times. So now the rocker goes on. And I may not even be able to turn it all the way over because of the too short of a push rod length. So what you're looking for here is zero up and down movement. So there's some. That appears to be zero. Plus a half a turn. So I'm going to start with my, whoops. There plus a half a turn. There's a half a turn. Now there's a set screw inside them that I'm sure you have to turn down to lock them in place, but as with everything else on this project, there's not any instructions on what to do. See if you can see that set screw in there. So I'm going to find an Allen wrench that will fit that set screw and see how that locks it. I'm going to lock it into place. Well, maybe I'll move the camera. I think you might be able to see it a little bit better from a different angle. what I'm going to do is hold the adjusting nut from turning and tighten the Allen screw down, and that should lock it in place. Now, I don't know if I should be using some thread locker on that or what. Okay, now that that's accomplished, the next thing he told me to do was turn the engine over a few times so that this roller marks that top of that valve where I put the magic marker. You may have not seen that now that I think about it, because part of the time I wasn't recording. So there's an opening of the and a closing of the intake valve. Here's another opening, another closing. I'll do it 3 times. Another opening, and it's closing. Okay. So that should have unlocked it. Retaining nut off. Okay, now I'm going to have to zoom in here real close on the valve. Close as I can get. So what you want to have is the line that it marks close to center of the valve. So as you can see, that little line is way too far towards the outside of the engine. So if you think about how the rocker arm works, and he told me this, but I don't recall which direction he told me, but if you think about how it works, if you have too short an arm, a push rod rather, and you lengthen that push rod, it's going to move that, I'm exaggerating it, but it's going to move that inside closer to the stud. See, if I had it here and I make it longer, it goes inside. I make it shorter, well, we're probably on the edge of, but if I'm down here, say, and I make it shorter, it moves it just a little bit outside. So, I've got the wrong push rods. Means I have to make a trip to Summit Racing before I can do this job. Okay, it is what it is. Putting more miles on my cars, trying to get the parts for this than absolutely necessary. I had an idea to maybe save me a couple bucks. That being, I have a known 7.8 inch push rod. So I'm going to use that as my length checker. And if it gives me the results I want, then I'll know I need to go buy 7.8 inch push rods. So again we go. Make sure that the set screw in here is far enough off so that I'm not hitting that. And right there's the point of zero play up and down. Be cautioned that sometimes you will hear people say you tighten those till you can't turn the push rod. That's not a good thing to do. I'm putting the half-turn preload on now. Rats. Let me take that back off because I forgot to freshen up the magic marker on the valve. I want to make sure that I've got it correct. And if this gives me a good reading, I'm actually going to check the exhaust as well. And the reason I'm going to do that is it has 7 thousandths extra lift versus the intake. Okay, no more up and down play. Go a half a turn from there. And I'll lock it down, even though I'm not sure that for this you actually need to lock it down. I'll turn the engine over a couple times. I'm watching the intake valve. The exhaust valve is opening. There goes the intake valve. It's closing. And I'm looking for interference as I'm turning this. Gonna get way down here. I'm gonna see if the intake valve is opening. It's starting to open. I can feel the valve spring, and you know what? I can tell by the where that's setting. That is going to be actually further off the center of the thing. So, is it possible I needed to go shorter? Because, like I said, I didn't remember which way the guy told me I need to move it. Yeah, that moved it further away. So 7.8 is definitely too long. Glad I did that. Can you see where the mark is? Way at the bottom now. So, maybe 7.3 was correct after all, and there was it is possible that because I didn't loosen up that set screw in there, that the set screw was giving me interference the first time I tested it. So I am going to back that off to about 7.3 and try that. And maybe have a lesson learned to check your set screws before you put those adjusting nuts on. Okay, I thought I was recording there again, and it was off. I don't know if it shut off by itself or what, but I set this to 7.3, put it on. I brought the lifter to where the exhaust valve was starting to open, adjusted zero play, added half a turn, and that's zero up and down play, added half a turn, turned it over twice, and now it's maybe hard to see, but it's a wider mark, and it's pretty much right in the center of the valve. Now, I'm going to do that on the exhaust valve as well, but for the exhaust valve, you rotate the engine until the intake valve reaches maximum lift and is almost all the way back down. Then you set the exhaust valve. So I'm going to take this checker out. Okay, intake reaches maximum lift and is almost all the way back down. Exhaust is lifting. It's going back down. The intake is going up. On its way back down. That should be almost all the way back down. We'll lube up these tips again. Make sure the dang thing is still recording. And I didn't get much on the video. So, got my marker in my hand so I don't forget to do that. I'm going to check the exhaust. It should be fine. It does have a slightly higher lift than the intake. It's like 7 thousandths. So put the rocker on. Adjusting that on. I'm just lifting this enough to tell that there's play in it, because I don't want to take it out of the place in the lifter where it's supposed to be. So that's at 0. That's about a half turn preload. I'll tighten that down, turn it over again. I'm only going to do this on one cylinder. You don't need to do it on all of them. Once I've got this in, I'll be just putting them in and moving on. And I'm going to okay, exhaust valve's going up, and I can tell by the amount that I'm getting resistance on here that when I get a lot of them in there, it's going to take an effort to turn this engine. Again, I'm checking for clearance issues. The closest it gets in this is when the valve is wide open. I'm sorry, closed. When the valve is closed, that's the closest it gets. As it opens, there's absolutely no clearance issues. Okay, it's opening now. We're gonna close it. And we're gonna take this off and look at the marks. honestly, I think you could eyeball this. Because if you get down where that roller's hitting that valve, you can tell it's in the middle. I didn't do it on the exhaust valve, I did it on the intake, so if it's off, I have an excuse. So. That was not as definitive a mark as it was on the intake. But I can see it looking very closely. I'll get a pointer and point out where it goes to with my naked eye from really close. But I'm going to add some light on it too. So it looks like it's from there to there, which is middle of the valve. So, there you have it. My problem probably was the fact that I never checked the set screws in here to make sure that they weren't what was stopping it, and I think that's what was stopping it. So the 7.3 inch push rods are correct, and I can proceed with installing these. But the first thing I'm going to do on these, I'm going to loosen every one of the set screws until it is flush with the outside of the adjusting nut. I just honestly wish that they had put some actual instructions here. And you know what? I'm looking at these, and what I'm seeing. Yeah, here's one that is. It's pretty far in there. To get the wrench in, it's got to go that far in. That's about a good 3/8 of an inch. I bet when I first measured that with 7.6 or 7.3, I tried, and it was way short. I bet that was in that far or more, and it prevented me from putting this adjusting nut onto the rocker stud. So that caused me a significant delay, but now I'm happy, and I'm gonna deviate a little bit from the instructions they give you. And the reason I'm going to deviate is they tell you adjust the intake on number 1, turn it over, adjust the exhaust on number 1. Then you have to turn it over and adjust the next one, and the next one, and the next one. But we know the firing order, and we know that a different piston fires every 90-degree turn of the crankshaft. And I have 90-degree marks on my crankshaft, so taking what it says about number 1, when the exhaust valve begins to open, adjust the intake. So my point is, I can watch the exhaust valve on number 1. When it starts to open, I can install the push rod and rocker arm for number 1 intake. And then, as I'm turning the next 90 degrees, I can watch the next cylinder in the firing order, which is number 8, and I can watch the exhaust valve. And when it starts to open, I'm ready, and I've only had to turn the engine a quarter of a turn. So rather than install them all, and that would be hard to do anyways, because some of the valves are up and down, and that would just make it difficult. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn number 1 till the exhaust valve starts to open, and I'm going to install the okay, that's starting to open, I believe. No, it's not. Better be sure about that, huh? Okay, there, it's starting to open. So it's time to install number 1 intake. So I am going to shut this off, the video, while I prep the number 1 rod by putting the assembly lube on and getting the rocker set and all that. And then I'll be back. So I forgot to turn the camera on while I installed that, but you've seen that several times and you'll see it again. I'm down to the point where I have 0 lash, and what I've found with these is you can almost turn these down just till it hits resistance, and that's the point of 0 lash on the lost my wrench now. That's the point of 0 lash on the up and down. You know what? This wrench goes better if you go from 9 o'clock to 3 o'clock. So there's a half a turn. There you go. Number 1's done. Now, we're going to be watching number 8 exhaust, because that's next in the firing order. So it's 1, 3, 5, 7, 2, 4, 6, 8. The far end is the exhaust, because here's the intake port from the manifold. I'm going to push that down and make sure it's set. I'm going to turn the engine over, and within a quarter of a turn we should see that exhaust valve begin to open. So let's watch the exhaust valve. There you go, started to open. So now we can put number 8 intake in. So we're going to lube up the tips. You have to walk behind the camera several times in order to get what I need. So we're doing the intake, I'm sorry, not the exhaust, the intake. So we're just going to put this down into the intake. Now we need a rocker arm. I should bring it closer. Goes on the intake. Get it seated in the on the rocker arm. And I'm just going to tighten this down until it stops. And then to make sure that's correct, I'm trying it and I'm backing it off. There's a little play. It's right there. So half a turn from putting it on is likely to be how it's going to work every time. But we will check it every time. So now we're going to tighten that a half turn. We're going to go from 9 o'clock to 3 o'clock. Tighten down the set screw. This is a lot easier, I think, than turning the engine over to do the intake and then the exhaust and the intake and then the exhaust. So I have written on my sheet here the next cylinder to fire is 4, so 2, 4. We're looking for the exhaust valve. This would be the intake. That would be the exhaust. We're looking for that to start to open. So again, 2, 4, intake, exhaust. We're looking for the exhaust to start to open. Make sure it's down. And it should start to open within a quarter of a turn. There it goes. We can do the intake on that one. Put a little assembly lube on it. Grab a rocker arm. Now we're 2, 4. And we're doing the intake, so right there. Rear end goes towards the valve. Sits down on the pocket. We're going to turn this in until it just stops. There's a little bit of play, just stops. Take it from 9 o'clock to 3 o'clock for the preload. Half a turn. Tighten down the set screw. Okay, so we did 1, 8, 4. The next in the firing order is 3. So 1, 3, 5, 7. So 3, looking for the exhaust valve to open. The exhaust valve is this one. I'm going to just refocus this a little bit, or re-aim it, because you can see the 2 exhaust ports here for these 2 center cylinders, so these are exhaust valves. So, where are we at here? We're so the exhaust valve was opening on 3. We're going to do the intake valve on 3, which is right next to here. Put it down the valve guide, into the lifter. Got a rocker arm. That's the intake. We're working on intakes first. Yeah, these would be fine if you just, like I said, I'm going to check them every time, but they would be fine if I would just take them down till they stopped. That's it, like 0. And then a half a turn from there for preload. Tighten down the set screw. On to the next one. The next in the firing order is 6. So 2, 4, 6. We're looking for that exhaust valve to open. There's the intake port. Exhaust port is over here, so we're looking for this valve to open. Right here. As that starts to open, we can install number 6. On the intake side. It's opening. So we're ready for number 6 intake. You feel that engine getting harder to turn. Now I'm fighting springs. Okay. I'm getting confused with the front and back of the engine. This is the front, so 2, 4, 6. We were looking at the right one. This is the exhaust port, this is the intake. Again, that was just as soon as it stopped with no force, basically. That was 0 lash. So now half a turn of preload, going from 9 to 3. So once I got all the confusion out of the way, let's call it what it is. This is going fairly quickly. So that was 2, 4, 6. Next in the firing order is 5. So 1, 3, 5. We're looking at for the exhaust valve, which is this one, the lifter across from it, to start to open. Make sure I'm on the right one. Starting to open. Lubricate a push rod on both ends. Probably would have been smart if I'd have just put a little bit of this in a clean bottle cap or something so that I could just dip it in it and go. So we're trying to do the intake. That is here on number 5. Let's get this figured out. It's not that hard. Run that down until it stops turning. Yep. Take our half turn from 9 o'clock to 3 o'clock. down our set screw. After 5 is number 7, which is right next door. Except now the exhaust port is on the outside. So I'm looking at that port to see, or that lifter to see it start to open. And there it is. See, that's a whole lot better than going all around the, to get to the exhaust port. There's a lot less turning involved. So moving along a lot quicker than it would have been. So we're doing the intake. That's the one near the intake port. Get that seated down in the lifter. That's where it stopped. There's 0 lash, there's lash there. Back to 0 lash. Took it from 9 to 3. From a half a turn of preload. The nice thing about hydraulics is that preload isn't really rocket science. There's probably a fair amount of room for error because the lifters pump up and okay, number 7 is done. Now number 2 is the last one. So exhaust port, exhaust lifter. Wait till that starts to rise. It's moving. We can install the intake. Intake. Down in the lifter. I need a rocker arm. Wish I had a little more room to place those rocker arms all on my cart there, but they probably just get in my way. So again, guarantee we're on the intake. stop, there's no play. Loosen it a little bit, there's play. Stop, no play. From 9 o'clock to 3 o'clock. Tighten the set screw. Yeah, I think when I was having the issues with the measurement, I think I picked the wrong adjusting nut, and that set screw was in too far and it was stopping it, not the push rod. So there we have it. 1, 3, 5, 7, 2, 4, 6, 8. All of these ones that are on are intakes, so they're all closer to the intake ports from the manifold in the head. So the intakes are done. Now, what was the rule to find when to adjust the exhaust valve for number 1 to get us set up? It says rotate the engine over again until the intake valve reaches maximum lift and is almost all the way back down. Then set it the same way as you did the intakes. So I'm going to just pause the video here for a second and take a sip of water, and then I'll be back. I thought maybe this would be a little bit easier for me to work. I guess it will be. I won't have to walk around the camera and such every time. So I did manage to get my rocker arms over here where they're closer. Get my push rods closer. Okay. First step for number 1. Rotate the engine until intake valve reaches maximum lift and is almost all the way back down. So here's your intake valve. Now we're going to have an advantage on all these exhaust ones because we have the spring pushing the lifter back down. There will be no debate as to whether it's just hung up or whether it's not. So we don't worry about the exhaust valve. You want to see the intake open, so the exhaust is closing. Now the intake's opening. And we want to come almost all the way back down. That's a pretty vague measurement, but we have to go with it. So oil up, while I took my break and rearranged things here, one of the things I did was I checked all of those set screws for the rest of the valves that I have and made sure that they weren't going to be a problem. So now they're all set up. Make sure that I have the valves in the, okay. So that's number one. And like all the others, I'm just going to tighten it down until it stops. Loosen it back up to get some free motion in it. And then tighten it back down until the motion goes away. That turned very easily. The others seemed to be harder to turn. Well, that doesn't feel like I've done anything to it. I'm going to back it off again. Try it again. No load on it, or no lash. See how the next one feels. That felt very easy to turn compared to the others. Okay, so that's exhaust on number 8, or number 1. Our next is exhaust on number 8. I'm looking at the firing order. So I'm going to turn this over. It looks like the intake valve is already open, so we're looking for it to almost close. And it is on its way down. That should be almost closed. So I might have to go back over all these. I noticed something. Again, no instructions, so it's hard. One side of the rocker is flat and one is rounded. I'm betting the flat side goes on the side that meets the nut, the adjusting nut. So I might have to go back and look at all those intakes and the first exhaust. So I'm tightening down number 8, and I noticed my battery is just about ready to die. So I'm going to that appears to be where it's going to be 0 lash. Okay. Dang that. Let me back that off. I'm going to have to use a different wrench because this one is running into the next adjusting nut. I'm going to shut the camera off before the battery dies and check out those, see if there's any I have to revisit and change battery. Okay, so I got a ratchet to tighten that without running into that. So that's good. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4 that I have to go and revisit to make the flat part match the adjusting nut. I don't know if it makes a difference, but I'm guessing that's the reason one end is flat. But when you have 0 instructions with the rocker arms, it's what you get. So I'm going to wait until I'm done going through the cycle of the exhaust valves. So the last one I had was 8. Next one is 4. So 2, 4. The intake valve is already open. So I'm going to be watching for that to come almost closed. And then we'll do that one. So this is the intake valve I'm watching because it's 2, 4. When that's almost closed and it's on its way down already. It's time to put in the exhaust one on that. So 2, 4. Exhaust. I'm going to put the flat side up to the adjusting nut. I don't know why they just didn't make both sides flat. Might have made it a little bit easier. getting down to it. So there's a lot of play there yet. That appears to be half. I mean that zero lash, I should say. Okay. I'm gonna tighten this a half a turn. And then tighten down the set screw. Okay, that was 4. Now we're after cylinder 3. So 1, 3. Exhaust intake is already open. Wait till it almost closes. Should be about there. The 3 exhaust. Rocker arm set for flat part up towards the adjusting nut. That's amazing how that zero lash is just where you'd stop tightening. Just with little finger pressure. So, do the set screw. So that was cylinder 3. Next in the firing order is 6, so 2, 4, 6. That intake valve is already open, just got to watch for it to close. Almost all the way. Two, 4, 6. Make sure the flat part is up. Get a half turn from there. Set screw. And after I'm done with all these, I'll have to go back and do that before that I have in with the rounded side up. Again, okay, it's normal for after these are rotated, they're going to be loose. That's normal. Just in case you're wondering. Oops, I didn't turn it over to the next one, and I'm already lubing the thing. So that was 6. We're going for 5. You know what? Since I've already lubed this up, I'm just going to set it in the lifter. It won't hurt anything. I'm looking for that intake valve to almost close. So that's 5. Intake is already open and it's coming down. Almost closed. Make sure the flat part is up. Turn. Lock down the set screw. After 5 is 7. 7's intake is open. Let's get it almost closed. Put the exhaust valve in, or push rod. Make sure the flat side is up. Boy, I wished I'd have discovered that sooner. Need a half turn from there. From 3 to 9 o'clock on that. Turn the set screw. And finally, number 2. Exhaust valve or intake valve is open. Get it almost closed. Gonna back that up a bit because I think I went too far. Can't back it up too much because gotta go all the way around again. The bolt was coming out. So the exhaust's opening, it's starting to close, intake is opening. Okay, happier with that. Okay, after I get this one on, I have to go look at the firing order of the ones that need to have the flat part of the roller in the middle of the fulcrum. So that I can do those in order. So I don't think I'm going to do that on camera because you've seen enough of what's going on here. Zero lash. Give it a half a turn. Tighten the set screw. Now, had I put all of them on with the flat spot up towards the adjusting nut, I would be done. So that gives you an idea of how long it might take to do this job. Also, like I say, I show everything, good, bad, and the ugly, and there was some bad stuff that had I known or noticed, it would have gone a little quicker. Oh, well, not quicker. It wouldn't have gone any quicker because it still would take the same amount of time to do them, but I wouldn't have had to go back and rework these 4. So I'm going to look at these again I'll look at them in the firing order, and then that way I will know where I have to start. So number 1, both good. Number 8, both good. Number 4, 2, 4. Intake is bad. So we're going to start with number 4. We're going to take that one off. We're going to rotate the engine until it's set to adjust the number 1, or the number 4 rather, and then we'll continue on from there. Okay, undoing it. Number 2, number 4, intake. Intake. Okay. Intake. So the first thing I'm going to do is flip this over. Get it lined up correctly. So for the intake, when the exhaust valve begins to open. So number 4 exhaust valve is there. It's actually open, so I'm going to have to go all the way around because it's beyond beginning to open. There, it's beginning to open. Exhaust valve's beginning to open. Can find 0 lash on intake. Okay, and this, glad I recorded this because what I'm finding out is I loosened the set screw enough to get the adjusting nut loose, but when I went to adjust it again, what happened was exactly what happened, which tricked me into thinking that the push rods I bought were too short, because I had the set screw too far in. So that confirms what I thought was happening. So we're going to take number 4 a half a turn and then tighten down that set screw again. So now what I'm going to do is I'll look at what's next in the firing order. see if that is one that I need to change. So we're on 4. 3 is next in the firing order. 1, 3. Don't need to work on that one. 6 is after that, so 2, 4, 6. Yep, got to fix that one. So 6, we need to turn it till the exhaust valve begins to open. So two, 4, 6, exhaust valve. When that starts to come up, it ought to be about a half a turn because we skipped one. It's starting to move. So now we can do the intake valve. Intake valve 2, 4, 6. And while I'm thinking of it, I'm going to back this out far enough and flush with the surface of the adjusting nut is enough. And then you can take this off by hand. Okay, take this off, flip it so that I have the flat side up, put it back on, take it down to 0 lash, that 0 lashes on every one of these has been right at the point of, so we're adjusting the intake on 6, 2, 4, 6, intake port, half a turn from there. Tighten down the set screw. After 6 is number 5. 1, 3, 5. No adjustment needed there. Then 7. 7 needs an adjustment. So, waiting for the exhaust valve on number 7 to start to open. Should be about a half a turn. Started to move. We're fixing the intake. Unwind the set screw till it's flush with the adjusting nut. Take off the rocker, whip it around. Flat side up. I don't know whether having those that way would have made any difference in the long run, but I feel much more comfortable with redoing them. Okay, half a turn from there. Oops. That feels too tight. Way too tight. Don't like that. Turning it over all the way again. So the exhaust valve begins to open. So I'm looking at the exhaust. Try to pump some oil again. Maybe that lifter needs to be pumped up. I'm gonna make it loose. in the oil pump drive. That went down the whole turn, but almost felt like it was at the bottom when I finished up. So for now, I'm going to tighten that down and try and do some research. Maybe I have to wait till Monday to call my machine shop guy. But that's weird. Yeah, that must be pumped down or something, because I didn't tighten that. Let's back that off again. That felt better. Okay. Maybe that's a slightly longer locking thing in there. I don't know. But it seemed like I had to back it way off. Looking at the rest of these, this one is not in as far and it's locked down. What would that mean? That would mean that the adjusting nut went on further. Yep. I'm going to try what the machine shop guy told me I'm going to try. Well, first what I'll do is I'll finish the last one. Okay. So that one's loose. Number 7 is loose. Last in the firing order is number 2, and that does need the intake changed. So, anyways, what the machine shop guy said in terms of priming it is to turn it over at different positions and run the pump so that it got through to all the, some of the oiling holes might not be in the right place. So we're going to try that. I'm going to wind this out some more before I even start this. Turn from there. That felt okay. It's just that one that one felt tight. This one felt loose. I mean, easy to turn, the adjusting nut. I don't know what that means, but this one, it was a redo from the standpoint of I had used the length checker there. So I'm going to pump a little oil, turn it 90 degrees, pump a little oil. A lot of oil coming up around number 7 there. So what I'm hoping to do is, if that lifter is out of oil, to pump some oil in it. It's nice that this fly, or, uh-oh. That doesn't sound good. I wonder if it's possible that that push rod wasn't sitting in the lifter correctly and it just popped in, because that would make it tight if it wasn't right in the middle. Okay, I'm going to watch for the number 7 exhaust valve. Just starts to open. It's partially open now, so it's going to take a while to spin it around. I think that popping was because I left that loose. So okay, that's starting to open. Let's try this again. There's 0 lash. See if we can get a half a turn on it. That felt right. I think we're good. I think I probably pumped all the oil out of the lifter and playing it around, and had to pump it back up. Okay. So now all of them are correct. Okay. See, now I have this almost at top dead center. Looks like both the exhaust and the intake valve on number 1 are closed. The exhaust is starting to open. That's going to be the exhaust stroke, so that's not when you want the piston to, or the cylinder to fire, so it should take another complete turn. So the exhaust is still open. Exhaust is closing. That's top dead center. If it fired there, it wouldn't have any fuel in it. So I'm going to verify this, but maybe that is right. Intake is opening. Closing. Intake just closed. Exhaust is closed. that should be top dead center. No. If the intake just closed, that means the piston was going down. So now the piston's got to come around and compress it, and the exhaust is opening. Oh, I'm looking at these things wrong. I'm looking at the exhaust and calling it the intake. That's my problem. Okay, intake is open. Intake just closed. It's coming up on top dead center. There's top dead center. Now if this is the power stroke and the piston cylinder fired now, both of these should stay closed for half a revolution. Yes, half a revolution. So let's go a half a revolution and see what happens. There's a quarter. There's a half. Now the cylinder should be at the bottom and the exhaust should open. Yep. Getting rid of the exhaust. Coming back up the top dead center. The exhaust just closed. Intake's opening. Intake closed. Coming up to top dead center. And we are on top dead center. Time to fire. Number one. Now, I'm not going to change any of that anymore. I'm not going to spin the engine, because knowing that's on top dead center, I can set my distributor in at the proper position, and with the Hyperspark distributor that I got from Holy Sniper, they have a way that you can lock it into number one top dead center, and it'll be dead on when you try to start it. So if anything changes, I will let you know, but wow, is that loose? That's not, a little bit of looseness is okay, but that's not. Try that again. Unless that, maybe that lifter is leaking down. That will never work. That'll blow an engine right there. Okay, sorry. Took my drill and pumped some oil into it. It tightened up, but it immediately collapses again. So there it is. And now it's Didn't realize I was recording that. You probably noticed that I can spin the drill, spin the pump, oil pump, and that thing tightens up, but I can push it right back down, it becomes loose again. Watch this one pop up as I spin the oil pump. So that's bad. I may have to edit part of that video out because I know I left it run a long time and it's probably not worth showing all of it because it's probably just me walking around thinking. For now, what I'm going to do, I think, regardless, that lifter's got to come out of there either to be repaired or replaced or something. So I'm going to take those off, take a look at it, see if there's anything I can see. Unfortunately, I've got to take the exhaust off too. But it is what it is. That's going to put a delay in the project. When I take these off, I'm going to pull that loosen that loosen that set screw so that I don't forget to do it when I go to put it back on again. So maybe it's salvageable. I can see that that lift or the diaphragm there or whatever is cocked in the bore. Let's see if maybe I can use a push rod and see if I can straighten that guy out. And if I can straighten that guy out and it makes a good seal, it's clear that I can pump it up. Yeah, it'll turn. Unfortunately, when it turns, it just goes cocked in the other direction. Okay, I can see a lot of editing necessary on this. That is just, it's broke. See if I can turn some light on here. This in here, first of all, it's way down there, but you can see how loose it is. Hopefully I can get one relatively quickly. Otherwise, this project's at a standstill. That'll be it for this video. Thanks for watching.